Hey, okay, this is something I want to do for a while now. I want to create a maybe small video guide on how to play the Mass Effect 2 Adept on Insanity. Personally, I think other people have gotten better guides on it than I ever will. I'll probably link them in the description. But I have, I've had some people ask, okay, how do I play the Adept? How do I build the Adept? How do I play on Insanity? How do I do this? How do I do that? So I figured I have pointed to other people's guides before. I always try to, supplement my own stuff with things that the community discovered since the people originally wrote their guides, things like that. So I thought I'd create this, plus to show how I like to play the Adept, especially early game, where it's probably the most difficult when you're just trying to build it, and it's really not quite at its peak yet. So I thought I'd show that. So first things first, on the character creation screen. If this is your, assuming a second time pass through the game, you'll have to select a bonus power. Pretty much like every other class in the game, you can pretty much make any bonus power work, though some are generally better than others, depending on the class and what the power is. About half the bonus powers are good. Others not so much. Some of them are sort of niche powers, and some work better on some classes than others. Excuse me. For the Adept, the best ones are probably, going in order from top to bottom here, probably Slam is good if you don't want to put Invest and Pull right away. That way you can still set up warp bombs with, say, Miranda or Thane, or Liara if you're doing like a Shadow Broker. That's probably a good one to have. Enter Drain is the one a lot of people take if they're playing Insanity the first time, because if you're playing Insanity for the first time, you're jumping the jump from, say, normal to Insanity, you'll soon notice that every enemy type has protections, whereas I normally see only certain enemies have shields or barriers or armor. Well, in Insanity, every enemy type has either barrier, shields, or armor as a protection layer, and so it sort of changes your game plan slightly, just a bit. So a lot of people take Energy Drain on the Adept because they feel it's fits a role that it can't have, or it sort of fills in the weakness that the class has by default. So that way you can remove shields and then set up your other powers. Generally, I don't like taking Energy Drain because I like using the other Adept's powers instead, and I just use my guns anyway to deal with protections or a squad mate. Thing I find with at least the stripping powers, they have like a base 6-second cooldown, and they're usually your longest cooldowns that way. So I like using the other powers; they're quicker, and I prefer crowd control. Actually, I tend to prefer crowd control powers anyway over any sort of protection stripping. Warp ammo is good, especially since it does extra damage against lifted targets. It also deals extra damage to barriers, armor, and health. Well, that's based on your base weapon damage, which are typically kind of small anyway compared to enemy health, especially on Insanity. So, and as you upgrade your guns with your damage, for the gun weapon damage upgrades, that is only calculated off the where ammo's out, calculated off the base weapon damage, and not including the other multipliers, things like that. So it actually tends to get weaker over time over your protections and health, so it's really not that good otherwise, but it's good against people who are caught in lift or singularity. And then you deal extra damage to enemies, and that's like twice as much, so it's good for that. Stasis is another really good one that people use. I use this one myself. It's good at one point, same with Slam. It sort of fits a nice niche in the Adept's powers, where it won't overwhelm the build, because you tend to prefer the stasis and lift, and pretend it for singularity and lift and throw and warp. And stasis is typically okay. You face an Emir mech or like a Scion, you want to drop it down quickly, things like that. It's more of an oh crap power sometimes than anything else. So it fits a nice thing in there. But like I said, you can pretty much make anything work. Although some powers are crap, like Fortification's garbage. You're better off with Barrier or Guess Shield Boost. Barrier is probably the best of them. I guess Shield Boost probably better a little early so you can get the tech cooldown upgrade. But even then, it's like even with like your max cooldowns, it's still at like 7.2 seconds cooldown, which would be your longest cooldown, and you're better off using other powers. Reeve is good. You can spec it to an area version at rank 4, which you won't get with Warp. But as a stripping power, Warp's kind of better, and Warp's more versatile anyway. But Reeve's a good one. No shock, tech power, but if you want to, that's when you start doing off-the-wall builds. Shutter ammo, again, garbage. Again, based off base weapon damage, and so armor piercing is closer, so it's generally better, but I prefer Warp ammo on the Adept because of the other powers you have access to. Yeah, but no, yeah, generally the best ones are Slam, Energy Drain, Stasis, Warp ammo. Probably the best ones for the Adept. Okay, talk about build quickly. Okay, this is a level 30 Adept, so max level. Show the build I like to use. Heavy Warp. Heavy Throw. Heavy Singularity. Full Field. Bastion. 1 point stasis. Okay, signature power. Heavy Singularity. I prefer that over the wide version myself. The wide I find doesn't last very long because there's more enemies that are in the field, the quicker it dies, and so I find it's too wide. Heavy Singularity, most people take it, at least in the community I see now, they take it because the hold duration is longer. Something I should note. Okay, Bastion first. You should take that. Nemesis provides more damage, but that's generally only really helps with heavy, like with Warp. Maybe if you have Energy Drain, that's another good one to take, so you have the damage for it. But Bastion has Bastion has a duration bonus. The duration bonus, as far as I can tell, only affects the hold duration, although that's really difficult to tell. As far as I know, it does not actually affect the singularity duration. That's a fixed set, so 45 seconds, although it does take the, I can say there's like a minus 20% duration penalty. So Singularity will take a duration penalty, as far as I know, but it won't have the bonus, from what I can tell. But, yeah, so that's that. Yeah, so Heavy Warp, do that because the damage is better. The unstable version, which does more damage to enemies in, like, to lifted targets with and the blast radius for that. I've tried it a couple times. I prefer the heavy version because heavy is generally better when you do use it against enemies with armor, or even if you want to do it against like Emir mechs with shields for extra damage, things like that. You're better off with the damage anyway. For Shepard, it's better for the kill. Squad mates unstable is better because they have it decreases their cooldown time. Heavy Throw. I don't use Throw a whole lot, mostly just as a kill maneuver. So I usually do it to heavy. Pull Field, so you can try to get more people on it. It has a long enough duration as it is, so you don't need more duration with the heavy pull. And 1 point stasis. Yeah, that's the build I like to do. So there's not much left to say about that. Okay, still talking about build, mostly about how do you build your steering to start the game. If you start at level 1, you start with 1 point in Warp, 1 point in Singularity, and 1 point in whatever bonus power you choose. This is a level 50 import, so you start at level 3, so you have 4 points to spend, 2 points per level. I would put points into Warp and Singularity, so that when you level up, I can then put a point in Throw and Pull. I can show that later. Another option you can do is point Singularity, point and Pull. This is good if you have, say, if you're using Warp ammo, so you get the lift damage, and then you can start working on your passive, which is good for you get cooldown bonuses. Another option, I suppose, if you say have Slam and you want cooldown right, you can stick with 1 point Singularity and then start immediately work on your passive. Personally, myself, I like try to get Throw and Pull as soon as possible, and Laser Station, pretty easy. It's just mechs, and even on Insanity, the mechs on Laser Station just have health, so it's generally not that bad. Just maybe Singularity, shoot them. That's about it. So I would put Warp and Singularity for that. Okay, so this is a level 60 import, so you start at level 5. Here, the same build. If I was looking to build, I like to do Warp, Singularity, 1 point throw, 1 point pull, and then I need to start working on my passive for a cooldown. And it'll still leave me with 1 point left over, but when you level up, that would be enough. Another option if you're using, you could do is immediately start going your passive as soon as possible to try to get your cooldowns as quick as possible, because you can live off Singularity Warp for a while. I just find it's boring. It's a Singularity, catch an enemy, Warp, Singularity, catch an enemy, Warp. I like actually fooling around a lot more with throw and pull, because it's a lot more fun, and I find it's a lot quicker for things. You can do a lot more things, and that's when I find it's more fun. We start using more all your powers together, instead of just, you know, concentrating on Singularity Warp, Singularity Warp. I mean, it's effective, but they're also some of your longest in terms of cooldowns for powers. Like Warp has 6, Singularity 4.5 by default, so I find it gets boring that way. And I mean, it's effective, but not as fun and not nearly as effective it can be as if you use all your powers together. Okay, quickly, I'm going to talk about my build. Okay, again, this level 50 import. So after you talk to Luciman, you gain a level. So now I'm at level 4. So again, I can show you there are 2 in my Warp, 2 in my Singularity, and then I put a point each in throw and pull, and of course my bonus power, which is Stasis. That's what I like to start the game off with in Frida's Progress. Big issue I have on Insanity is Singularity is still not very good. The whole duration still kind of garbage. Gets a little better, but generally it gets better as your cooldown gets better. So power recharge time will get better as I go through it. Also, Jacob, early game, I can never figure out what I'm going to do with him. Generally, I prefer pull over Incendiary. Incendiary is good, even if I have my own pull, for a little extra crowd control, especially if I can get it to squad early enough. But generally, I can only do if I do it with a level 60 import, unless I do a bunch of side missions right away. And that's good for some, you face Blood Pack early, which is good for to stop their health regeneration. But even then, I prefer getting his pull. Other people might not have a big issue with that. Miranda with an Adept, I like getting her Warp level up as soon as possible, because I'm going to combo with that quite a bit. So getting it to unstable as soon as possible is generally a good idea. Now that's about all I can say for that. So